Okay, no problem. No problem. Hello and welcome to Living and Loving Each Day. Bridging barriers is what we're all doing today. My name is Sue Jansen. I'm so glad that you joined me today. And this podcast is a work and in progress always, and it focuses on supporting parents, caregivers, and service providers of primarily children and young adults with adaptive needs, and just aiming to bridge the barriers that they face every day. And that could be physical, mental, spiritual, any kind of barriers that they're just having trouble with at the time. So I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today is Dr. Jill. I'm calling her Rosenthal, and she is an award-winning Harvard and Stanford educated physician and best-selling author who retired after a 35-year career and became a certified as a mindset coach. And so her extensive experience and training, and she is very, very well. I'm just so glad to have her as a guest today. She's so enlightened in this area, and she's training, and it's coupled with her own transformation from a stressed, overworked, and unhealthy physician, wife, and mother into a healthy, thriving coach. And it's made her uniquely equipped to help others release unconscious thoughts, unconscious emotions, and behaviors that hold us back so that we can create our own dream life. And we're also going to touch today because, as you know, I deal a lot with the caring. My granddaughter has cerebral palsy and cortical vision impairment. She had near SIDS when she was 8 weeks old. So we were at the Stollery Children's Hospital for 5 weeks over her bed until they actually, it was a week before they said you could take her home. So we didn't know what was going to happen. So my whole life as a special ed teacher and as a grandma with a beautiful daughter with cerebral palsy and cortical vision impairment, I really thrive and have a passion about helping people, especially about those caregivers that need to take care of themselves so much. So again, I'm sorry for my long intro, Dr. Jill, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Thank you for being here. You're a wonderful guest. I appreciate you. And just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit more that the audience wants to know more. I know they do.
Yeah. So, as a physician, sister, mom, doctor, mother, daughter, wife, volunteer, I'm probably leaving some out. You get the idea. I spent my whole life taking care of everybody else except for myself until it eventually bit me in the ass in the form of a breast cancer diagnosis. And, when that happens, it's like, time out. You have to stop
Wow.
because
Enforced
cancer.
timeout. Yeah.
And right. And so, I want people to take a time out and fix things before they get to that point. And if they can't, if they do wind up with cancer or heart disease or like whatever chronic disease that is commonly associated with stress and overwhelm and burnout, and all of the like the habits that go along with, the lifestyle habits and diet that go along with that, I want to help shepherd them through it if that does happen. So a lot of my focus is actually in helping women professionals who have or had cancer to deal with the emotional aftermath and wreckage that follows that kind of diagnosis. But I also, a lot of the people I work with, they're caregivers.
Mhm.
They have kids, they have partners, they have parents who are aging. And in a 2.5 year period, I lost both my parents after taking care of them from cross country for, a couple of years.
Wow.
Foot surgery, taking care of my husband, raising a teenage daughter. So in a 2.5 year period, I had all of that, mastectomies, chemotherapy, radiation. It was a lot.
Wow.
Um, but I've been doing caregiving for my husband for going on 16 years. And so I know a thing or two about what it's like to be a caregiver and how stressful it is and how isolating. And cancer is isolating too. And then COVID, and I took my husband home from assisted living for 13 months during COVID.
Did you
And
have
then
help? Did you have respite? Like, were you, could you qualify for respite?
I didn't, so he was not in the condition that he is now. He's in memory care, he's late stage, he's in hospice, he's, so it's a different ball game. But um I did, when I had him, I did actually go away to a retreat, a nutrition retreat for a while during that time, and my stepkids came and took my place here. But for the most part, no, it was me and him in the house, and I was trying to start my coaching business, and I'd be on Zoom with somebody, and all of a sudden I would see him behind me,
Yeah.
and he'd like have his hand in, like he'd have a thing of peanuts or cereal, and he'd have his hand in it, and he would sneak in his sneakers, and I, like, all of a sudden I would be aware, or I would, and so it was a lot to try to do. And it was during this time, when he was here during COVID, that I had my big aha moment about caregiving. And it when I was in practice, I had the patience of a saint. Patients with advanced dementia, or young people with whatever their thing was, would come in, and you know I cared. Nobody cared more about their patients than I did. Probably got me in some trouble too, um but it's work, right? And work can't hurt you the way family can. And and even if it was a 20-minute visit that took 40 minutes with somebody who was punching me, kicking me, whatever, um at the end, they went home with their partner who had to deal with them, or their parent who had to take care of them, and I went home. And when you get home, it's harder to have the patience of a saint. When somebody asks you 30 times in 5 minutes, what's for dinner, right? And it was hard for me to be as patient as I wanted. And
Yeah.
then one day, and I remember it because it was November 22nd, 2020. And I remember November 22nd because I'm of an age where, that was the day that JFK was shot. And I'm standing at the sink, and it was the first time that he asked me who I was. And I thought, okay, here we go. Like, we
Yeah.
are in it now. There is no turning back. There's no, and at that point, like, there's no anger, there's no resentment, there's nothing, right? There's just pure acceptance. And
Mhm.
it was like a light
Light
switch.
switch. Yeah. Hmm.
It was a light switch moment for me. And at that point, I magically had all of the patience that I needed or would need for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing moment. Unfortunately, a few minutes, so I told him my name, and I said, "I'm Jill, I'm your wife." And then he said to me, "But you have a different last name than I do, right?" So, like, he sort of knew that. Unfortunately, then my daughter came in the room,
Yeah.
and and she overheard him asking who she was, and that was a little bit more of a dagger to my heart than when he asked who I was.
Aw.
Um, but this, the stress on caregivers, whether it's your child, your sibling, your parent, your spouse, it's just huge. And so that's something I like helping people with.
Well, that's awesome that you're there to do that because you have that experience, firsthand experience. And I know when my daughter has respite workers because Kalea is 12 now. She's
Yeah.
thriving, like she is in a special school, and funny as heck. Like she just makes us laugh every day. And she can't see us, but she sees light and color. Like if I put lights on, she'll say, "Oh, that's red or that's blue." But it's interesting that she can't see me, like she can't see us. But I mean, she's our joy. And but I know how hard it is on my daughter because she's in there just like you were, just all in because you really care, and that just in that stress, it does build up. So we got the self-care is so important, and it's something that we just always want to just say, remember, when was the last time you got your nails done, or when was the last time you just went out, with the day out by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super important. And like the two things I think that are really important for caregivers are to be able to process and release the negative emotions that build up and that poison them as well as the relationship. Um, and, kind of accepting, like, once you can accept what has happened to your person
Mm.
and that this is how it is, rather than pushing back and fighting it, everything becomes easier. But the other thing, as you say, is the idea of respite and the ability to accept help, which is difficult for a lot of women.
Especially with
And then as a woman physician, right, and asking for help is very hard. And so, I encourage, this would apply to your people too, when somebody is being treated for cancer, I encourage them to have kind of what I call the general contractor, right? When you build a house, you don't talk to all the subcontractors. You talk to the general contractor and they hire all these people for you. And so when you're being treated for cancer or you are busy as a caregiver, like whatever it is that is taking up all your time, if you have a support network, but one person, so you're not like, you don't want to talk to 10 people about, can you bring me dinner? Can you pick up the prescription? Can you do the laundry? Can you vacuum? You want to have one person who coordinates the team for you so you don't have to. And I think that's something that applies just as much for
Mhm.
your audience as
Mhm.
it does for my typical
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah, we're fortunate where I am. I'm sitting. Where are you sitting, Dr. Jill? Where are you physically?
I
What
am physically in Washington State.
Washington
I
State?
moved here, it'll be 20 years this summer. Spent the first 46 years of my life in the East Coast and the Northeast shoveling
Oh,
snow.
okay.
And now I live in Washington.
Washington State. And like I love having my podcast because it's been a couple of years now, and I love talking. I've talked to people in Ireland and like all over the world. London, a photographer in London, England, and I'm up in Canada, so I'm way up north, and I've never
Okay.
been there.
So you
So,
know lots about shoveling snow.
oh, especially this year. I mean, yeah, and Toronto and the East Coast just had a huge storm. So, but I just really relish and I really cherish this opportunity to talk to people from all over the world. So, yeah. So that's great. And anything else that you want to share that's coming up for you that's exciting, or anything else that you want the audience
Um,
to know?
well, what's coming up for me is a couple things. Later this year, doesn't have a date yet. I plan to do a summit to do with, you know, helping people with cancer. Also, later this year, my book will be coming out called Thriving
Congratulations.
Beyond Cancer. And that's all about healing the emotional aftermath and letting go of the fear and the anxiety and all of the things that can wreck your life, even after cancer, let alone during cancer.
What's over? Like what's
So people, yeah, because people, like, your cancer could be 5 years ago and you're still traumatized by it. And by the way, the same exact thing is true for caregivers, right? There is trauma. There is trauma in being a caregiver. There is trauma in seeing something unpleasant happen to somebody that you love. And
Oh, yeah.
when you release that, it's like, you know, it's huge. And, putting down those suitcases filled with rocks and freeing up your hands to do the next thing, even as you are dealing with cancer or caregiving, um, lets you build a life that you love, no matter what is happening, right? You can thrive no matter what life throws at you if you know how to handle the circumstances, the thoughts, the emotions.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. And I consider it, it's my superpower, and it's a gift that I never would have known that I had I not gotten cancer.
And gone through all of the caregiving
Gone
issues.
through and gone through everything I had gone through. And so, like, one of the I guess the big message is, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And that's very hard for people to understand in the moment, the acute shock of the moment, right? Like when you first get that cancer diagnosis, or when you first find out that your kid has, a bad birth defect, or you find out, or whatever, or your husband has Alzheimer's disease. Um, in the moment, it's hard to see that. But when the dust settles, if you can just accept where you are and then decide what you want to do with that, that's the skill I want people to have.
Exactly. And to see themselves as victims, not victims anymore. Just
Yeah, this thing about being a victim, with I worked with a coach who talked about, and this was actually my productivity coach, but he would say, um, you know, when you're a victim, you get to be right, but you don't get to be happy. And that's so true. But we get so attached, to being a victim sometimes, and the martyr. And my mother was like the queen of the martyrs.
yes,
And
mine too. I think
uh,
there yeah.
and we, when we hold on to this, it becomes part of our identity. And so it's very hard for people to let go of their identity, because they're like, well, who would I be if
Yeah.
whatever? Or they're angry about something, somebody done them wrong. And the idea that you can't let go of the anger, because if you do, then it's tantamount to saying, well, what happened is okay.
Mhm.
And that's not what it's about. What it's about is, holding on to anger is like putting your hand on a hot stove and just keeping it there. It doesn't help you, right? It's like, you might have heard this is one of my favorite things. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, and they don't even know,
And not
that
totally
you're
unaware.
mad about something they did 18 years ago. What the
You're
heck?
holding on to that and they don't have a
And you're
clue.
holding on to that. And so, and we all have grievances. If you love people, you're going to have them, right? If you have a spouse, you're going to have some things. And for me, once I was at that, when I had that light switch moment, what am I going to be mad about? Something he doesn't even remember?
And it's not personal. They're
But it
not
doesn't help. It doesn't help. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve them. It doesn't serve the universe. And so, this idea that you can just let go of stuff, that's the path to freedom and happiness.
oh, there is a path. There is a path.
That's the
Pray.
path.
I mean, you can change this, yeah, because it's not personal. They're not doing it deliberately to hurt you. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Jill. It was a
It was
pleasure
great to
meeting
talk to
you.
you. Yeah.
Great to talk to you as well. Thank you so, so much. And everybody, thank you for joining us today on Living and Loving Each Day. And I can be found at suejansen.ca because I'm up in Canada. So, but I'd love to hear your thoughts and subscribe to my website and my podcast as well. And I'd love to just continue this conversation. What we tapped on into a lot of really important things today: the cancer, the caregivers, the self-care, and but so much more. So again, Dr. Jill, it's a
And they're
pleasure.
all connected.
We're all,
They're all like, right?
yeah,
They're all connected. We're all connected.
we're all connected. So, what a pleasure. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here, and we'll see you soon. Okay, bye.